Welcome back, everybody, to Shining Phoenix Gaming. It's going to be a little strange not saying Aces High Gamers. Earlier yesterday, as of the recording of this video at the very least, Tribute decided to drop a whole big update for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. I know I haven't made any videos as of late, and I figured I could squeeze out one more before the end of the year, because I'm doing kind of a quasi little vacation, a little bit of a break right now, but I did want to get this video out to everybody and then take the little break and come back into 2023 and starting off strong. But let's jump into it. The first thing I'm going to start off with before I actually go into the patch notes, we have this new custom game for the arcade mode, which is really cool, and it's got all these little dip switches, and I kind of like how it's a whole keyboard, or not a keyboard, I'm sorry, a circuit board. So each one has different effects. They're like mutators, if you will. So starting off at the top, you got free play. Play as long as you like, no continues, no game over, which is really great. Radical Ninja allows you to use radical mode and up to 3 ninja power bars. That's only available in story mode, so now you can actually use it in arcade, which is really good. Doppelgangers, so everybody can choose the same character if they really want to. I always found that kind of strange in certain games, but it's always a cool option to have. Focus Fighter, retain your ninja power bar when taking damage. Now, basically, as you're charging your bar on any difficulty other than chill, when you take a hit, if it's not full, it actually fully drains. So this will allow you to keep the charge on any difficulty you happen to choose. Old School Super, attacks will now cost health instead of ninja power, which is absolutely, as it says, very retro, just like Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist. Respectful Turtle, taunts cannot be used. Very controlled, which is a really good thing to have, considering there's been a lot of different games where people would just spam the taunt, then super, spam taunt, then use the super. Gonna touch a little bit more on the taunts in a little bit. Revive no more. Basically, you can't revive anybody, which was a new feature into this game. Now it's, again, a little bit more hardcore like the old school arcade games. Faster foot, enemies move faster, be careful. I'll display this here in a little bit, but it seems like they move about twice as fast as they usually do. Blasting baddies, most enemies now explode when defeated, watch out. Now, foot soldiers already explode. What this is actually referring to is an explosion which will actually damage you if you're hit with a grenade or a bomb or fireball or something like that. So you're actually going to take damage if you're around a crowd of soldiers when they explode. Fiercer foot, enemies now have more health, so get ready. I think it's about maybe 2 or 3 extra hits, but I'll show you in the test. And then aggro adversaries, enemies attack more often and deal more damage. So they're basically a little bit more aggressive. There are certain instances where some foot soldiers I've noticed in some levels where they would just stand still and not even move. Now they're actually going to be moving a little bit more, and they're going to make sure they're attacking you a lot more frequently. So here, we'll turn all of these on, but we actually can't turn on Old School Super because then it's going to turn off these guys right here. But as you can tell, we're not going to even bother with this one here. We know what its actual effects are. So let's start the game up here real quick. I usually choose Raphael because he's my favorite, but let's take Casey Jones for a little bit of a spin. So here we are. Let's take Casey out for a spin. So usually it takes about 4 hits to take them down. And you can see it's taking a lot longer, which is kind of nice. And you can see the explosions actually create the puff of smoke. I'll actually try to purposely get hit by it so you can see. You can see right there it took a little bit of damage. So the next thing I wanted to show off are some of the filters that were added to the game. Going into the options, go down to display filter. We've got CRT, CRT curve, and VCR, which looks really cool. So CRT obviously gives it the old school television look, you know, unlike our LCD and 4K monitors that we have these days. Also, you've got the curved look. So it's like the old, you can only really see it mostly at the top. But even when I move a little bit, it's mostly only in the HUD that you can see the curvature to the screen. And then lastly, which actually is one of my favorites here, is the VCR. It gives it that really washed out look. The pixels don't really line up as well. You see Casey's got a bit of a red border around him, and that right there, that little thing, I don't even know what to really call that, but it's like the tape has some kind of blemish in it, and as it's playing, it just runs across the screen. It looks really, really cool. And then, obviously, we go back to our standard look. Now, next up, let's go over all the patch notes. As we can see here, CRT and VCR filters, custom dip switches for arcade mode, which is mentioned here in the new features section. Also, online in the character select, the host can actually set a maximum number of players for the lobby. So if you only want to have 3 friends, 4 people, you can do that. Moving on to the fixes. Fixed a rare crash in arcade mode when changing difficulty. This one right here, cars no longer deal massive damage when the player is considered armored, for example, using a heavy swing. I had never noticed that, but apparently it has been a problem. Fixed sometimes where bosses are unable to reach a player who is positioned, you know, at the tops or bottom of the stage. I imagine this is mostly the Super Shredder fight, where you can kind of stand in the corner and he's got less of a chance of hitting you, so maybe that kind of fixes that. Fixed sometimes the boss is getting frozen after being hit with Raph's flying super attack. Again, that's not something I had personally noticed myself. Fixed the score not keeping for player when switching character after a continue. Interesting. Again, not anything I've really experienced. Fixed April's super flying attack, sometimes seemingly reviving KO'd enemies. I may have seen this a couple of times where April just comes flying in and enemies just seem to be popping right back up. Fixed reviving KO'd players near a transition point near the escalators on the Crystal Palace Mall, which would sometimes prevent progression. And this has been a common problem for a lot of people, and it seems to have even happened before when nobody's not even being revived. I don't remember if that was actually fixed prior to this fix here, or if it had something to do with it, whether you were in close proximity to the escalator itself, or you're just on that particular frame of the screen where it would transition to the next scene. But this is definitely a great fix, because you literally have to restart the stage, or if you're on arcade mode, you literally have to start over in order to get it to go again. And then fixed updating the timer for special statuses, for example, infinite ninja power when KO or in a cutscene. Online guest players can now rejoin the same hosted game. Fixed an input has to do with the backflip or the round off when turning. I'm guessing when you're trying to do a backflip or round off and input of the directions not actually working. And then fixed a rare soft lock on the world map if users complete stage 8 after finishing stage 10. Moving on to improvements, here's some of the big stuff. Taunt now only fills up the first ninja power bar. This was, as I mentioned, we were going to come back to this. This is really great. Even in arcade modes where you're going to have a full 3 bars, or in story mode, you're not going to be able to spam the taunt, spam the taunt, spam the taunt all the time. It's not going to fully stop people from taunt spamming, because most of the time you would spam the taunt 3 times in a row and then use 3 supers and then spam it again and then use 3 supers. People are still going to use a taunt, then use a special, use a taunt, use a special, but hopefully it keeps the pace of the game going a little bit better. Or you just play a custom game and you just turn off the taunts completely, which I think is also a great change. We no longer clear fully accumulated ninja power bars when KO on chill difficulty. Again, this was part of one of the dip switches also in arcade mode, where as you're accumulating ninja power, if the bar is not full and you get hit, it would wipe it back down to base level. Doing a throw now grants the player invulnerability, which I believe is a monumental change for the game. It basically before this change, throws, and whether it's at the screen or across left and right, were practically useless because you always be opening yourself up to getting attacked. This is such a welcome change. This is just awesome. I'm at a loss for words. That's a big change for me. Added more feedback in the HUD when trying to do a super attack without enough ninja power. So I didn't actually test this yet, but there might be some kind of on-screen prompt when you don't have enough ninja power, besides hearing the audio cue from your character. Many small animation tweaks were made to all the bosses, making the attacks easier to read, which is always welcome. Fixed Dirtbag's holes collision detection that was too wide and too deep. I'm not really sure about this one. I mean, that's great. If the hole was too wide, I'm guessing where the border of the messed up ground, where you could actually fall in from that point instead of the actual black circle that's within that. So that, of course, is a welcome change. Reduce the number of enemies that spawn on the Zorax Stampede and the frequency of the Stampedes. Zorax has a little bit less health when facing multiple players. This is also a really good change because the Stampedes seem to be coming way too frequently, and he's actually one of the harder bosses to fight against, especially because of the Stampedes. So a little bit lower health and less frequency in the Stampedes, you can actually get a little bit more damage in, which is going to be kind of nice. Now, here's another big one, which is really great. Rat King now does Pied Piper less frequently. I swear, on higher difficulties on certain runs of this game, when you get him down to less than half and then less than a quarter, he would drop down for about 2 seconds and then pop right back up. Drop down for 2 seconds and pop. It lengthened the length of that fight by so much, so this is a huge change. It's really welcome. Improve the Super Shredder fight in many small ways for smoother pacing and tweak some damage values. His grab is now more useful, is used more frequently, and is more efficient though. Bummer, dude. So that's kind of nice that he is using it a little bit more. I feel like I've never been caught by it, except maybe once if I wasn't paying attention. So if it's going to make the fight a little bit tougher, I'm welcome to that, because it's actually not that difficult if you know what you're doing. Improve the Statue of Tyranny pacing and tweak some damage values. So I'm wondering if this has to do with how long he stays back with the foot soldiers coming on screen. So time between attacks. It's something else that I really would need to test. Mother Mouser has a new bite animation to differentiate the change from the charge bite from the idle animation. So now you know which animation, which attack is going to be coming your way based on the animation. So you know what to anticipate. Mouser Model 3 and the Mother Mousers are now acting a bit faster. So I'm guessing that it, like the dip switches where it increased the speed of all the enemies. I think just on a base level, these two enemies are going to be moving a little bit faster now. Radical Mode damage multiplier is now applied to all throws, super dive attacks, and charge heavy swings. So I'm assuming that when you're in Radical Mode, the damage buffs were never applied to these. So now they are, which is a great change. Fixed players sometimes falling outside of the screen repeatedly when respawning at specific locations. I'm wondering if this has to do with the rooftop section, where if you fall off and you respawn, it seems to put you a little bit closer to the edge. And if your teammates, or if you're not alone, you're moved a little bit too far to the right, you tend to kind of get stuck and you constantly fall down, fall down, fall down, fall down. Moving on to the online, added a refresh button on the search lobby list, which is great, so you don't have to keep backing out and going back in. Improve the way the arcade score is calculated. We now record each player individually, even if they leave the game. Localized, correct or improve some strings in Spanish, French, and German. I did notice back when the game had first came out, there were a lot of localization errors that were being reported, especially on the Spanish side of things. So this is a welcome change to see that getting its fixed. And lastly, in the menus, the game's going to remember the how to play, whether it was seen or not, separately from the story and their arcade modes as they differ. So this is great that this is not going to continually pop up every time you want to start a new game. Improve the prompt to reset your story and character progress. And the pause menu in the arcade mode now shows the total playtime. And also, Steam Input, they now have improved support for the PS5 controller. So if you want to use your DualSense from your PS5, it's going to be a lot better. That's going to do it for me with this update for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Apologize if there was a bit of stuttering and such. I didn't write a script for this one. I figured I'd just do it by the seat of my pants and see how well I can do. And obviously, I'm not really good with doing that. So I'm going to have to go back to script writing with my future videos here. As you can see, I'm still stuttering here right now. And it's also hard to talk while playing the game at the same time as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'll be back coming in the start of the new year, 2023. Going to be outputting a little bit more in terms of videos for retro games and some indie titles that I've been playing. And hopefully you guys enjoy them and like them. But that'll do it for me. Happy holidays to everybody, and I will catch you guys in the new year.